Hello, and welcome to R&R's Ask the Expert. I'm your host, Valerie King, R&R's editor-in-chief, and I'm joined today by Jeff Moore, Gus Timbers, and Lawrence Nelson to discuss mergers and acquisitions through the lens of two recent case studies. Jeff is president of ATI Restoration, the nation's largest family-operated restoration firm, which is headquartered in Anaheim, California. Gus is co-founder of ProCare Solutions, a restoration company with two offices, one in Nashville, Tennessee, and another in Russellville, Kentucky. And Lawrence is the founder of Lang Restoration and Construction, a restoration company located in Tucker, Georgia. Now, in November 2021, ProCare was acquired by ATI, and then just over a month later in December, Lang was acquired by ATI. Both of these acquisitions are a part of ATI's accelerated growth strategy, which was launched in November of 2020, which also included acquisitions of Mark I Restoration, QFB Property Restoration, and J&M Keystone. So you may have guessed that we invited Jeff, Gus, and Lawrence on for us to share firsthand accounts of the hot topic that is M&A in the restoration industry. And hopefully we'll gain the perspectives of the acquirer from the ATI lens and then the acquired. And we'll do that through those two unique acquisition stories and get takeaways from it all. Thank you all so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us, Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thanks for having us on.
Pleasure. Excited to dive into this conversation. So first, Jeff, let's start with you. Could you tell us a little bit more about ATI, its history, its size, clientele, that overview?
Yeah, so ATI is, I think, as you mentioned, the largest family-owned and operated restoration company. So my dad founded it back in 1989. I've got two younger brothers that work in the business. We have scaled from a really small mom and pop in a tiny 1,000 square foot facility in Anaheim, California. And today we are in 28 different offices across 15 states. We've done the 5 acquisitions. Overall landscape of the business, we're approximately 70% commercial revenue, and our job opportunities are split 50-50 between residential and commercial. I think the thing that really separates us is we've got the scalability of the large commercial clients that want to use us across the country, but we also want to take care of the consumer and the homeowner, because at the end of the day, there's a lot more houses out there than there are commercial buildings. And so I think we bring that great mix of family dynamics and a very well-balanced approach to clientele and who we're servicing, whether it's the largest, real estate owner in the world, or if it happens to be Mrs. Smith down the street. They all need our service, and our goal is to provide those services as quickly and as affordably as possible to as many customers as we can.
Thanks, Jeff. Truly helpful overview. Okay, now Gus, can you give us some background on ProCare Solutions?
Absolutely. We've been in business in Nashville for about 10 years. We moved from the Cleveland, Ohio area where we knew we wanted to move south, but after looking throughout the Mid-South, we fell in love with Nashville and started ProCare with plans to quickly grow the company. Each year we've had double-digit growth and record years one after another. Ultimately, we're a full-service restoration company. We're more heavily residential than commercial, but we offer solutions for fire damage, mitigation, structure, mold remediation, and contents. Our team here is 45 staff members, and we cover both residential and commercial clients across Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky.
Awesome. All right, and last but not least, Lawrence, could you tell us about Lang Restoration and Construction?
Sure, Valerie. Lang has been in business for 27 years. Lang actually started as a new construction residential builder. We started in 1994, and obviously, as a lot of other residential builders, we got hit with the crisis in 2008, the financial crisis. So we were able to pivot to restoration, and actually we fell in love with restoration at that time. And haven't turned back. So we actually started working restoration in 2009 or so. We do full service. We do from reconstruction, contents, mitigation, environmental as well. We're actually located in Tucker, Georgia, which is about 15 miles east of Atlanta. And similar to Gus, we're actually heavily residential. we'll do probably 20-30% commercial, but most of our work is through the TPAs on the residential side. And when fully staffed, we're about 40 employees.
Okay, thank you all. Now, Jeff, back to ATI. I'd love to learn more about your growth strategy I alluded to in the intro. What would you say your vision is for scaling, and how exactly does M&A fit into that vision?
I think, Valerie, the most important thing to scale any business is to be able to grow organically. I think, at the heart of what we're doing, we're trying to grow offices that we've had and that we've had for decades, along with, people like Gus and Lawrence and their business. I think that year-over-year growth is the most important part of growing and scaling in any business. At the end of the day, any company can go out and acquire businesses, they can purchase EBITDA and grow, but the most important part of growing, especially through M&A, is choosing the right partners. And so, you can't just buy to buy. I think you need to be strategic, you need to be smart, and I think the most important part is choosing really good operators. And I think for us to continue to grow and expand as the family business that we've built, we have to make those right decisions. As we've scaled the business, we've made some really great decisions along the road, Valerie. We've made some really big mistakes, and I tell you that all comes down to people. And so a huge component of it, as you look at a business, is certainly looking at financials and metrics. But at the end of the day, it's a people business. You need to make sure the owners have the heart. They have passion for the company. They've got a passion for the industry. This business will eat you alive. I know, Valerie, you're new. You've been in here. You're not on the operation side, but I'd say the runway for someone to really love the industry is 2 to 3 years. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And so finding that business that has the drive to grow and continue to take on more jobs and provide more opportunities, that really is the differentiator. And so as ATI continues to scale, I don't know where we go from. Right now, we're about 1,500 employees. I don't know if I fast forward 2 or 3 years. I'm not really sure what that looks like, Valerie. At the end of the day, we're going to grow smart. There's certainly been people in the industry that have scaled successfully. There's people that have certainly made mistakes down the road. And I promise you, we're only going to take on what we can chew. And if that's doing 5 deals that we've done and not doing another one, so be it. If that means we can do more than what we've done, we will grow at the pace of which the organization can handle and nothing more. Because at the end of the day, we are a family business. We've got 1,500 families we have to provide for, and we can't make mistakes along the path. We can't just be chasing dollars. We're chasing a purpose, which is to provide a service, especially to our commercial customers across the country. And right now, unfortunately, when we're not in a market, we have to rely on a first responder, also known as a competitor. It's in a market that we're not in. And I would much rather have an operator there, like one of these 2 amazing gentlemen that can handle that on our behalf and work together as a partnership, than relying on someone that you may not have control or manage or be able to control the quality of the service.
Thanks, Jeff. So, when it comes to what ATI looks for in prospects, would you say that captures the general sense of what you're looking for? Is there an actual list, so to speak, of what you look for in any restoration company you're going to acquire, or does it depend? What would you say to that?
Oh, there's a whole list. I mean, it's literally 100 items of what you're looking for. But I think if it comes down to the important components, people is the leader of the pack. You need to find a business that has amazing talent and leadership, whether if it's in the founder, it's in the management team. At the end of the day, our practice, Valerie, is to partner with someone that can continue to operate their business the day after we close the same way they did before. ATI is not in the business. I think both of these guys can attest. There's no one from ATI in their offices. There are certainly people that will come and go and provide advice and support, but we're not in the business of adding a new location and putting in people. So we are looking for someone that's got a track record and a history. The ideal target is people that have been in business a long time, have a great executive team, great leadership team. And I'd say most owners in the business, there's 15,000 contractors in the restoration space. Most, ourselves included, always want to grow more commercially. And that is the hardest part of the business to grow. And so I think, the people part is really important. I think the other metrics that we're looking at is obviously profitability. Are Are they increasing the gross profit margin? Do they have consistent financials? You certainly don't want to buy a business where margins are going up or down, depending on the year and the size of projects that they're doing. It's no different than any other investment. You're looking for something that's predictable, that's consistent, that you can count on and that you can bank on, whether it's the financials, it's the gross profit, it's what they're making a year. I think you also want to look at the mix of business. So someone who's doing 100% residential may not be a great fit for ATI because maybe they've never done a commercial job, and that's certainly something we're looking to do. The same token, I'd also be concerned about buying someone that's 100% commercial because Gus and Lawrence certainly know as we acquire a business, it would be really challenging to teach someone how to do a TPA job for Contractor Connection, Alacrity, or Sedgwick. It's just very different. Running a water mitigation job in an industrial building is so different than handling a flood in someone's house where they're living in. There's occupants, there's pets, there's stuff that has been passed on from generation to generation. And so I think finding a balance, and that balance really runs the gamut from one way to the other with people that we've worked with. But I think it really comes down to the longevity of the business and the people running the business. And I can tell you, we walk away from about 50% of our deals because of the management and the ownership team and not having that consistent business model.
Very helpful set of highlights there. Thank you. And also just ending with what you try to avoid. That's useful context as we now dive into these two unique transaction stories I talked about in the intro. I'm thinking maybe we start with ProCare Solutions. So Gus, can you tell us a little bit about when and why you decided to sell your business, ProCare Solutions?
Sure, Valerie. So we really weren't on a path to sell the business. We were actually introduced to Jeff through a mutual employee. We had helped with an opportunity in the area, and during that process, the employee had said, "Hey, Jeff had mentioned that he's interested in this region. Is it something you'd be interested in?" And when I talked to my business partner, we really weren't looking for it, but we'd love to meet leaders in the industry. So we agreed to do a first meeting with Jeff. And ultimately, Wayne, my business partner, was looking more towards retirement down the road, not immediately. But once we were introduced to Jeff, I mean, the path just continued on, and it was interesting, exciting, and everything fit. The family, the fact that they're the largest family owned restoration company was key to us and really felt right. And ultimately, I was, my desire in this industry is to grow. I knew we kind of had hit a point where we would have to make some big changes to move to the next level, and I would rather partner with a larger group to help us grow this region.
Very helpful. I had in mind to ask what you were looking for in a buyer, but obviously you were not looking in a buyer. So anything else you'd like to add to what attracted you to Jeff and his team and family at ATI, or anything along those lines in terms of looking not looking for in a buyer?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we ultimately, when you're in this business, and really any business, your employees become an extension of your family, right? We've got 45 families that rely on us to do what we do, and we work as a team. So as we developed that relationship with ATI, it was clear that our values meshed, right? They had a set of core values, we had a set of core values, and if we really looked at them, there was a huge amount of crossover. And really that comfort level that somebody was going to take it and care about our team as much as we had. And the fact, again, with them being the largest family-owned restoration company, that was clear, right? It was clear that they were going to care about our team just like we did. And ever since the transition, it's proven to be true.
Thanks for that. Okay. Could you give us an overview of what the actual process was like from your side being acquired, so to speak?
Absolutely. Anything like this takes time, right? Especially when it's the right fit. The process was well organized, and they walked us through step by step. It took time from the time we met Jeff through the LOI And then due diligence, it never feels like it moves fast enough. And in the meantime, you're continuing to run a business. We didn't have a broker, but ultimately Wayne and I felt like the offer was fair, and we didn't have any concern throughout the process that what we were moving forward towards didn't make sense.
Very helpful. Okay, of course, I must ask, Jeff, what was this like from your end of the spectrum? How did the purchase of ProCare work for you coming from ATI?
So I'd say, the one with broker is very similar to, I'd say more often than not, there hasn't been a broker involved. So I think, it's always interesting. At the end of the day, a lot of businesses aren't for sale. I'd say, half the businesses we've partnered up with never were for sale. They weren't even thinking about doing a deal. And so from our perspective, it went well. I would concur with Gus. Nothing ever goes as planned. Nothing is ever quick when you're, if you think of selling anything else in your life, I think everyone at some point has sold a car. By the time you decide to sell the car, clean the car, detail it, put it up on Auto Trader, and by the time you actually sign the title over, you can't sell a car in 2 weeks. You certainly don't sell a business in 2 weeks. And so I don't know, Gus or Lawrence, I'm not sure. My guess is from our first conversation until we closed was probably 5 months, maybe 5.5. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd probably say right on par, plus or minus 20 days for most of the deals. Once you find the right partner, it's just going through the motions. I think a lot of what we do is trying to help people that haven't, Gus, I think it's sold one business before. And so, trying to help owners do things that they've never done. At the end of the day, this is still new for us. As ATI, it's not like we've bought 20 companies. It's a skill set that we're all, refining on every deal and trying to make it a better process. I intentionally did not talk to Gus or Lawrence about this podcast whatsoever, because honestly, I wanted their unfiltered truth. There was literally no prep conversations internally, because I wanted to hear their side of it. So I think from our perspective, I don't think we had any major hiccups. I think it went as planned. And having been in their shoes at one point, I think the most important step in everything is being honest, being transparent, and being realistic. I look at a transaction with a company just like I think all of us do as operators. And I don't think there's a single job out there that we want to tell the customer we're going to get it done in 30 days if we think there's a chance it's going to go over. So you always want to tell them it's going to take longer and then hopefully exceed expectations. And so I think that's how both of these deals kind of went down.
Very insightful. Lots of nuggets of insight there, just in that one story from those two different angles. Okay, now on to laying restoration and construction. Lawrence, can you tell us when and why you decided to sell your business?
Well, I decided for several reasons. First, as Gus mentioned, for his business, he wasn't actually in the market. Well, it's kind of the same for us. We were at a conference in Dallas and met Gokul through one of our business consultants, and never did call him. Didn't think any more about it, but it was brought up. Hey, you might want to consider, what your exit strategy looks like. And as my two sons got older, one's 24 and 27, I started approaching them. They're both IT consultants, and and I started thinking about, hey, as Jeff mentioned, hey, this business is brutal. Either you'll love it or you hate it, and it'll eat you up if you're not careful. And they do well for themselves. I said, you know what, maybe the best option is to look at what an exit strategy looks like, and that's what I did. And in my case, I still like what I do. I love it, but I still wanted to look out for my family and start looking at what that would look like. So I actually did hire restoration brokers, and they connected me with Jeff and their team at ATI, probably within 30 days of me getting all my financials together, and that's when it all started. And certainly in my case, just as Gus, I wanted to grow the company. You feel like you're at a plateau. It's hard to we're in a very tough market. It's hard to get employees. So it was an opportunity to do something good for my employees and actually grow the company, and at the same time, enjoy some of the fruits of my labor. So, I've enjoyed kind of making this decision, and I think it's working out for the best.
Very nice. Very careful decision thinking about succession planning and talking to your sons. That's a really neat story. More on what you were looking for in a buyer once you kind of thought, all right, let's start looking at this from that lens. Were there things that you were looking for in a buyer of your business?
Yeah, this one's super easy. I mean, you're looking for transparency, someone that's honest, and very simple. Do what they say they're going to do. And certainly one that's going to look out for your staff. One of the first things that happened when I did meet Jeff over the phone is my broker. After that call, he said, "Hey, you might want to talk to Mark with Mark One." He was the first acquisition, and it almost sounded like it wasn't real. I mean, he kind of said, "Man, it's real. These guys will do what they say they're going to do." I said, "Well, I'll give them a shot." Certainly at this point, I think we're still at the stage where, Jeff has been a man of his word, and everyone else in the team has kind of been just that.
Great idea to talk to a company that's already been acquired by the company you're talking to. All right, so could you tell us what the process was like from your end in terms of the transaction?
Well, I guess the first thing that happened is we got in contact, or ATI got in contact with me. They actually came down and we met. But once we got to the point where we knew it was a fit, I think my first meeting with Jeff's team was here in Atlanta. We probably spent 3 hours together, and I think we talked about restoration probably for 15, 20 minutes. And I think that was kind of key for me because it let me know that they were looking for someone that they were comfortable with and they could trust, and so was I. So that was kind of the beginning of the relationship. After that, it's usually not all that difficult to make the numbers work because it kind of is what it is. If your numbers are right and they trust what you're giving, and there's some history there, then usually you can work the numbers out. So at that point, it probably, once we got the verbal LOI, it probably took another 30 days to get all that ironed out. And unfortunately, attorneys do what they do. And again, Jeff being a man of his word, if it gets a little bit where we can't get the attorneys to make things happen, that's when Jeff will usually pick up the phone and say, hey, let's have a quick conversation, let's iron this out. And he did just that. And from that point on, it's just a matter of getting all the documentation together. And I think Gus probably said it best. It seems like it's taken a long time, and at the same time, you're running your business and you're trying to figure out, when you're going to have the time to get all the documentation done. So it usually works out in the end that you needed every bit of time that it took to make it happen. You needed it all.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jeff, what was it like from your end, this particular transaction with Lang?
I think this one was a slam dunk from the beginning. We really like Lawrence and his team. I'll double down on what Lawrence said, and I think it's the same with Gus and Mark and everyone else who've done a deal with. At the end of the day, we're operators. That's what the Moore family is. It's what ATI is. We know the restoration industry. I would say for any owner, if you do a deal, whether it's with us or anyone else out there that might be buying companies, make sure you've got a great dialogue, because at the end of the day, we're partners. So I really look at M&A like a marriage. We're getting married, and we have to be able to trust one another. At the end of the day, the attorneys are out there to look out for each of our interests, but at the same time, they have their own interests. And I'll tell you, the one thing that attorneys do is they're going to bill you by the hour, and they don't always have getting the deal done as the ultimate interest. And so making sure at any point you can pick up the phone and call the buyer directly and have that direct dialogue, because there was several conversations with both of these guys and others that, hey, we're in a pickle. Here's something. Is this really important for you, Gus? Is this really important for you, Lawrence? It's not important for me, but my attorney says it is. I don't think it is. What makes sense? I remember, I think towards the end, I remember meeting Lawrence at a cheesecake factory or something, and we had like 15 items that the attorneys just couldn't figure out. And I think over a meal, we were able to solve all of it. And we sent an email out to our attorneys and his attorneys and said, here's what we've agreed to, make it happen. We don't need your opinion. The two owner and operators have figured it out and solved it. So You guys solve it on your end, but draft the paperwork accordingly. So I think that open dialogue really sets the tone for what the relationship is or can be in the future, and it needs to be open and direct as well.
Very good. Good to know. Thank you both for sharing that story in M&A. Okay, so we've talked about the companies as they were before merging. We've talked about the experiences of fusing together. More on that fusion, looking ahead into the future, and maybe some more practical takeaways listeners can leverage. Gus and Lawrence, could you each speak to how your businesses fit into the ATI family now that the transactions are done? Have they taken on the ATI name? Are you and your staff staying on? That kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly been an easy fit merging ATI and ProCare, the ProCare families. As Jeff mentioned, there's not anybody that's moved into our office. We haven't lost staff. We haven't had to lay anybody off. It's really been an easy merger. Uh, the process is still underway. It's still happening, but it's really gone smoothly. From the improvements of the benefits to the additional resources, we could not have asked for a more welcoming group. Everybody we worked with has been amazing. Although we have access to the national resources of ATI, at the same time, we've kept the ProCare name locally for now. There's not been a huge push for change. I've been excited to learn the ATI way and learn what we can do to leverage their resources and grow this market locally. And their staff has been amazing in assisting with that. So we're very excited for the future.
Thank you.
Gus,
Lawrence?
I got a quick question for Gus. It's a follow up to that. Has ATI been able to bring any commercial jobs or resources to maybe major events that you wouldn't have otherwise responded to?
Absolutely. Yeah, it wasn't, I think we closed on a Thursday or Friday, and the following Friday, so 7 days later, we had a Hyatt large loss that we mobilized to, and were able to assist with that in the region very quickly. And then we had an event, a weather event in the area, and within days we had a cat trailer on site that was fully equipped to help in anything that we needed. So yes, the resources have been unbelievable and have definitely brought business to the table.
Nice. Immediate fruits. Awesome. Lawrence?
Well, very similar. Currently, we're still keeping the Lang name. We're excited to look forward to the future and taking on the ATI name. Obviously, that sometimes takes time in the marketplace to get everyone comfortable. As far as staff, we're looking to keep the same staff. I plan to stay on for as long as they'll have me. And I'm excited for my staff. Just the opportunity, to grow and even look at opportunities even outside of, Metro Atlanta. You're looking at an email, one or two a week that says, hey, we need guys up in Boston, or we need guys, in this area, of the country. That's a great opportunity for two or three guys to say, hey, I'd love to travel and do something different. So just the opportunity, as well as the improved benefits, has been an added touch to even the things we were already doing. So I'm excited for Lang, and I'm certainly excited for my employees.
Thank you. Jeff, I'm curious from your point of view, through the lens of these acquisitions and even the others you've talked about, what is it like in this stage, or maybe even earlier on, like in that immediate aftermath of the acquisition? The purchase is made, the deal is done, the press release goes out. Then what, especially in those early stages?
Yeah, so we've got the way we're set up on the acquisition team. We've got a team on the front end. I think during the diligence phase, Gus and Lawrence dealt with our integration team. So we've got another team that essentially, from LOI until about 30 to 45 days after the deal, will kind of manage the transition. So you're working on transitioning the simple things like the 401k, the medical benefits, the dental benefits, the payroll checks, All of I'd say some of the back of the house. I'd say from our branding, we haven't rebranded anyone, Valerie, at this point. We are going through a huge overhaul internally. And so we're also cognizant of time and change with acquired business. Eventually, yeah, everyone will be ATI, but I honestly don't know what that timeline is. My guess is it's at some point next year. No idea when that is. At the end of the day, ProCare and Lang will always be part of ATI, regardless of what the logo is or isn't. It's part of our DNA, it's part of our culture, it's part of the history. And so we've got that dedicated team that's going to come in, meet with the staff, make sure they're comfortable. The most important part once you close, and it is, having done it ourselves when we took in private equity, and I think both of these guys and every other owner we partner with, the scariest thing is telling your employees. And I think it's making sure we do a pretty incredible video to hopefully welcome people. We try and bring in, celebrities, athletes, obviously family members, and then there's typically representation from ATI there. At the end of the day, it really comes down to a couple simple things. They want to make sure that you're not flipping the business upside down. They want to make sure I've got a job. They want to make sure I'm still going to get paid on Friday. And typically they want to support the owner. So as long as you've got a great business model and we chose the right partner to begin with, if they go to Lawrence and Gus and say, man, was this good for you? Is this good for me? Absolutely. Here's all the benefits. It's pretty amazing. Even if Gus had 1 out of 45 people, which I don't know that he had, that was anti against it. It's amazing how quick within 4 to 6 hours of thinking of it and the opportunities that people get really excited. And then I think that the hard work is going to take time, Valerie. They're still operating on the systems that they've always done. They still estimate the way they did. Integration takes time. And at the end of the day, you don't want to disrupt the business. It's already been disrupted. They spent 5 months of their time talking to all of us at ATI and all these attorneys and accountants. I think a full transition is a 6 to 20-month process. And I think over time, you do bits and pieces. I don't think there's any benefit to doing it all within the first 90 days, because then everything you told everyone is not going to be true, because everything did change. Business isn't what it was before. And at the end of the day, we're not looking to make big changes. We're just looking to make it a little bit better. And there's going to be areas that we can bring improvements. And honestly, I had a lunch today. We're learning just as much from these guys and their businesses and how they operate and how they get margin out of a job. Quite honestly, a lot of these guys get better margins on jobs than we do as ATI. And so I think it's all of us taking the best of both companies and figuring out what's going to be best for us in the future, because it's all of our business.
Very helpful. Okay, so you made the perfect segue into my next question, thinking more about that longer term integration. So I'm curious, just whatever your thoughts are, or what stands out in your mind as you are navigating the integration phase and moving into the future, thinking about that long term fusion. What could each of you share about the successful fusing of course, once separate businesses over the long term? Any tips, thoughts, anecdotes? Anything on your minds?
Yeah, for sure. The combined resources are unparalleled, right? Lawrence, I think, alluded to a consultant, right? We've used consultants in the past. With this, there's unlimited resources to pick up the phone and have a conversation with another operator at a different office to run something past, right? Before that, it was the two business partners. It was just us. We weren't sure whether we navigate it. We can have the experience of other people that have done this, and just bounce ideas off. But ultimately, the ability to mobilize resources. We've already sent people out of town. Lawrence mentioned the opportunities for our employees have been amazing. Benefits are better. It's really been great to see what the potential can be, and we're just getting started. It's even today we've already had a conversation about a storm moving into the area and making sure that we're prepared and can move resources at a moment's notice. So that's really been great to see.
Thank you. Lawrence, Jeff?
So very, very similar. Just the additional resources. 3 weeks ago, and this has kind of been occurring over the last year or so. In the Atlanta market, it's continued to grow. There's more homes being built, and we want to add employees. We reached out to the recruiting team, and sure enough, a week later, I've got 12, 14 resumes in my inbox. That takes time, and you can't operate your business at a full capacity and be spending all day hiring, spending time going through resumes. This is an opportunity to have additional resources. Even yesterday, we got a lead internally on a large fire, for multifamily. Reach out to Jason Rain, say, hey, I need some marketing material. 3 hours later, I have it. But in addition to that, when you take on a large apartment complex and let's say it's 3-4 million, that's not a problem for us to perform it. But as an operator owner, you're always thinking about, do I want to, put that much cash out? Is the working capital going to be worth the process? We're planning to go walk the job tomorrow, and we're going to walk with confidence. We hope to earn it, but at least we have enough confidence that, hey, let's go get it. If we need additional resources, whether it be project managers and or working capital, we know it's there. So that's just having that level of confidence puts us in a position to grow.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think long-term integration-wise, Valerie, I think some of the key components are, operations. I think it's providing them access to each other and other people that, essentially everyone that's running one of our offices is, although they may not be the owner of that particular branch, it's essentially the same job, probably to a lesser extent than what these guys are as owners, because they're doing all the back of the house stuff that someone who's running a region is. I think the goal for us is to try and ease up some of the day-to-day minutia. It's giving all of those departments that we have, whether it's the marketing department, it's the business development, it's national accounts programs, it's having an HR staff, it's having 6 full-time recruiters in your purview. It's someone that can review a large construction estimate, and those are available immediately. I think that's the important stuff. I think the back of the house stuff in terms of the paperwork that they're using, which is different than ours, which is different than Lawrence's, that will all be shored up in the long term. Same thing with the systems in which they're, whether it's how they're doing, payroll or time cards or how they're summarizing their jobs, that all comes in time. But the immediate impact is having access to those various departments that as an owner operator, quite honestly, you don't have. And the goal is to have, someone like Lawrence who eventually wants to retire. I think one of the things when I chatted with him, I said, let's free up some of the stuff that as owners and as managers, we don't always like to deal with. Hopefully we don't have to get as many customer complaints. Hopefully we can free up some time to where you're not having to sift through all the resumes or post the job and do everything yourself. And let's get down to what we really love, which is servicing customers, it's meeting with clients, it's hiring employees. Unfortunately, as owners, we end up doing a lot less of that. And a lot more of all the other stuff that just fills our day-to-day busy plate. And that's the ultimate goal of partnering with someone like an ATI, is to try and free that up and really give that, that punch back to you and that excitement. Because reality, the minutia of the day-to-day is part of the daily grind that, quite honestly, at times, none of us like to do it. And hopefully we can alleviate that from an owner.
Thanks, Jeff. I must ask, super curious, each of you, if you could weigh in, what would you say your biggest challenge or challenges have been through this experience?
Well,
Ultimately, I don't think.
Jeff.
Go ahead, Lawrence.
So my biggest challenge, I think, through this process, like as I mentioned before, ATI was great. All the staff has been great. Hadn't really had any issues whatsoever. The biggest challenge is, you're going through this process while you're still trying to run your business, and that's always tough. This business is not one where you can sit back and relax. Everything's a fire drill, literally sometimes. But actually, having the challenges of trying to get paperwork together, and when claims are steady coming in, and you want to, like I said, the fire, as Jeff mentioned, is really is going out on some of these claims and helping your team, sell some of the claims and figure out a way to increase margins. So when you're bouncing back and forth from, trying to get this last bit of documentation, that's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think any transaction like this can happen without some challenges. And although we didn't face many challenges in the transaction, Jeff and the team prepared us. He kind of mentioned this before, said something's likely to come up and we need to trust each other and come to the table and we'll work through it. And something did happen. And at the end of the day, Jeff and his team honored what we had agreed to. And really seeing that play out solidified our trust that we ultimately made the right decision to trust our customers and our employees with the ATI family. We worked through it. They made, everything worked out perfectly. And we, no complaints on how it was resolved.
And I think from my perspective, Valerie, I think I'd point, I don't know there was a ton that went wrong during the deal. I think from our perspective, these are some of our first deals and we are learning on each one. And I think the hardest part is the after part. And honestly, that's where we're spending a lot of the investment dollars and dedicating resources on that integration piece. It's, how soon can we get Gus and Lawrence and their team up to speed when weather events come in? It's how do we get them the technology and the software that we have? How do we make sure that everyone in the fleet of ATI knows that we have facilities in those locations? How do we tell all of our customers we now want all of your work in Kentucky and Tennessee and Georgia and the surrounding markets? And I think that really summarizes down to communication, making sure everyone within their organization knows the resources within ATI, and then also all of us know the capabilities that we have in these new markets. And I don't think we'll ever fix that, Valerie, but I can promise you with each deal, I promise you it'll be a better transition for each owner. And all you can work on is making it better each time.
That was an awesome answer. Similar but different. I'm wondering if each of you could share the biggest lessons you've learned or lesson you've learned from these deals. Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it at the beginning, making sure that you are partnering with a company that shares your core values. I think if we didn't have complete faith and throughout this process that Jeff and the ATI team has shown that we can trust them, that they're committed to their customer, they're committed to their employees, that would have made this challenging. And it's been clear that we made the right decision, and we're proud to be part of the ATI family.
Well, of course, I certainly agree with Gus as it relates to, being partnered with a company you can trust. As I go into what my biggest lessons were, I just learned a ton. I mean, just understanding. I mean, you learn a lot about your business when you have to peel back the onion and pull every documentation, every bit of documentation that you've ever kind of put together, and your staff. You just learn a ton. And if I had to look back and if I was doing this again, I would be better prepared, just because you like I said, you're getting all this documentation together, and you start looking up, saying, hey, maybe I would have done this a little bit different had I known what needed to be presented. But like I said, it still was a great learning lesson, because you don't know what you don't know. So, but no, I was excited to do it. I wouldn't say that at the time, but like I said, those are my biggest lessons.
Thanks, Lawrence. Jeff, I'm assuming there's something you've picked up over this series of recent acquisitions, including the two we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing I share with a lot of owners is making sure you understand your financials before you go through a process. Looking at Gus, who wasn't looking for a deal, I recommend all owners. So whether you're ready to sell now or you think you're going to sell in 20 years, I think if you have outside expertise that can help you, or a good staff internally, I think if you manage your business, I think we're all better for going through the process, both on their side and in our side. And we all know the business better than what we did before. And I think if everyone managed their business with the notion that they're going to sell the business in the next 12 to 24 months, you always want to be the best version of yourself, because if and when you need to sell. I mean, I've talked to owners where there's tragedies in the family. I think if you're always ready to do it, whether it's for retirement or you just have fed up with the industry, and even if you never sell it, even if your kid's going to take it over and their kids, I think if you run it that way, you're always going to be in the driver's seat. And I think if you don't, it's no different than your personal finances. You really have to have a good understanding of what's coming in and out. And if you don't pay a lot of attention, all of a sudden you can look at the bank accounts like, oh man, I don't know if I have enough money to pay the credit card this week, or if I have, you really have to put time and money into it. And I think as operators, we spend a lot more time worried about, making payroll and making sure we're getting out to the job on time. We have the right equipment. And I think as owners, ourselves included, as we grew and scaled the business, we were concerned more operationally than we were on having the best books and the best finance and accounting. And I think as an owner, we all need to spend more time in that realm. So if and when we're ready, we can do it.
Thank you all for those tips and takeaways for others to keep in mind. Before we go, I wanted to ask you, Jeff, what is next for ATI? Any more M&A activity? Anything else we should be mindful of as we head further into 2022?
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot more deals come out. I don't know how many at this point, but yeah, I think you'll see us continue to expand really east of the Mississippi. So in the Midwest and along the East Coast, we need to add more strategic dots on the map to help us service our commercial customers. So I don't know if you'll see 2 press releases or if you'll see 12 press releases, but we've got to figure out what our bandwidth and integration is. And we've got a lot of work already on our plate with both of these guys and their amazing companies and the others. So we will continue to operate in whatever capacity we can handle.
Thanks, Jeff. It's certainly been an impressive series of acquisitions just in my joining of R&R, and we'll continue to follow and cover and share with the industry.
I've got a question for Lawrence. I'm just curious what the answer is. So Lawrence having a broker, which is different than Gus's position, you clearly considered, and I certainly don't want to know the names of anyone else that you spoke to, but why did you choose ATI? Because I believe you talked to someone else in the industry or outside investors. I'd love to hear your reason on why ATI and why not the other guy.
Well, I guess the part where, well, first of all, in our first conversation, just talking to folks that, you guys just seem like you understood the business a lot better. Talking to a company that's not family run, that's a private equity group is a little bit different conversation, completely different. And as I was speaking with our restoration brokers and understanding kind of where we were, as far as what we were looking for. And like I said, even speaking with Mark One, it just really made the difference, just knowing that, I could trust a transaction. In our world, the words or just saying mergers and acquisition is something that's pretty painful. And to hear, Mark and John with QSB said, man, yeah, you got to put some work in to get all your documentation together. But man, it is really pretty painless when you get down to the brass tacks of, these guys will do what they say they're going to do. If you can't put something together, just say it. Just tell them what you have, and if you can't do it, they'll make a decision. But usually it's going to come out, and it's going to work its way out. So, and we did just that. So, just know that. I mean, it was, it was scary, just thinking through that process. But as we spoke to others, it cleaned it up. It really did. Just made us feel a lot more comfortable.
Awesome. This has been great. All right. Well, thank you all so much for sharing these stories and your takeaways and the lessons learned and the challenges faced. Before we go, where can listeners go to connect with you or learn more about ATI Restoration?
ATIrestoration.com. You can check us out on the web, LinkedIn. You can check out our podcasts. You can pretty much find us anywhere on the web.
Very good. Thank you all again.
Thank you so much, Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie.
Absolutely. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure. Yes. All right, listeners and viewers, please keep your eyes out for a column that Jeff is authoring on leadership in our March e-magazine, which does also speak to integration. For more insights on restoration, remediation, and the people behind it all overall, visit our website, rmagonline.com, also Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And if you haven't yet, be sure to follow the podcast so you can keep up with all of our latest episodes as they roll out. And if you could give us a quick review and rating, we would so appreciate it. We're also on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, so we invite you to follow us on social too. This has been R&R's Ask the Expert. Thank you for listening.